Welcome back, everybody, to Love of Pages. Hopefully everybody received their new book, obtained their new book, either in audio, ebook, or in paperback. I talked Jessica into switching from ebook to paperback with the promise of recipes in the back of this book.
Yeah, and I do believe I said, well, are you really a book nerd unless you have 2 copies of the same book?
That one's fair. However, I will say the recipes do also come with the audiobook as a downloadable PDF.
That's what I have to say to you, Stephen. No, that's actually really good to know. That way I can have it in all sorts of formats. Mm-hmm. But that being said, dear viewers, readers, listeners, you have myself, Elizabeth, and I am being joined by the lovely
Jessica. I'm going to assume I'm the lovely one, sorry.
Yeah, I think that is fair to assume.
That is the appropriate assumption. I'm sorry. I realize you guys can't actually see where you are on my own screen.
Nobody is over there, but for me.
Yeah. Same. Like for anyone watching the video, like enjoy that. But yeah, and then
wherever you are. So we'll go ahead and jump in. We are reading The Accidental Alchemist by Gigi Pandian. I think I'm pronouncing her name correctly. I have no actual idea. So it was my selection of a book. So, dear listener, watcher, quick introduction. I actually first read this book by listening to it, which is the way Stephen is doing it now. And the general overarching storyline is that our main character, Zoe Faust, is a 600-year-old, right?
I remember like
300-year-old plant alchemist who accidentally discovered the elixir of life.
As one does.
And she, after having traveled the U.S. for several decades, has finally decided to rest in Portland, Oregon. So she has bought herself a fixer-upper in the truest sense of the word.
Was she in the U.S. before coming here? Because remember, Dorian was under the impression that they were coming from France when he was in the box.
He did not realize that she had been out of France for those last 50 years. She has in fact been traveling the U.S. in her Airstream trailer after World War II. And
wow, Dorian.
As Stephen mentions, is a living gargoyle, a prototype from the Hall of Gargoyles in Notre Dame, who has been brought to life by some form of alchemy. Or magic, perhaps. No one's quite clear yet.
Sorcery.
We'll get there. But he stows away in Zoe's belongings that she had in storage in France. Because when you are a non-aging immortal, although she doesn't like that word, immortal alchemist, the only thing you can really do to make money, unless you can turn lead to gold, is sell all of your old things that you collect over the centuries. So she runs an online antiques market, which all of us in the 21st century can truly appreciate. It makes us wonder who we're buying things from online. But
I always assumed it was just some guy who smokes a lot in New York. Or at least that's what all of my packages would lead me to believe when I buy something secondhand.
So Zoe gets to her new home in Portland and discovers this living gargoyle in her things. And on the very next day, the handyman she has hired is found murdered on her front doorstep while she's out. So she goes from intentionally trying to live completely under the radar to prime suspect number 1 of a murder in what is known as the neighborhood haunted house, while trying to save a living gargoyle. So, as I promoted in the pitch, this has it all. Mystery, murder, a little bit of magic, alchemy, and recipes in the back of the book. Or at the end in a downloadable PDF.
And goth hipster handyman.
And goth hipster handyman.
Can't forget that one.
Which you can only have in Portland. But before we get into the rest of our book, we have a lovely drink inspired by the book that Jessica so lovingly found for us. So, Jessica, what are we drinking tonight?
It's a tea-teeny. Tea-teeny.
Tea-teeny.
I cannot remember what the actual name was. I just remember tea-teeny.
That was just the name of it. It was just
tea. Okay, cool.
I am not drinking out of a martini glass because I'm ridiculous and don't own any, but that's besides the point.
I'm ridiculous and do own some, so.
Okay. What tea did you use, Jessica, in yours?
Darjeeling.
Ooh, a good one.
I haven't actually tried it yet, so.
So I actually went for a twist because I don't typically like cold tea. I love hot teas, but I don't actually typically like cold teas. So I actually brewed myself a cup of my blackberry cinnamon tea.
That sounds delicious.
Which has definitely given this a fun twist to it.
That'd be good.
I do recommend fruity flavored teas with this. Turns out pretty tasty.
Yeah.
Huh. So, I don't have a tea myself, but if you guys are getting tea out there, go for hot cinnamon sunset. It's the best tea in the world. Black tea base, like citrus rind that's in it, other spicy things, cinnamon, a couple other spices. It's really good.
Yeah.
I like it. I do oolong in the morning for pick me up, and I stick to mostly mint and herbal teas in the evening hours when I'm trying not to prevent myself from falling asleep.
Yeah,
that's a good plan. I'm
usually an Earl Grey, but the Darjeeling came with a book subscription box thing that I did. So I was like, this came from a book, so I'm going to go ahead and use this one.
Well, and that one was from the same brand as the one that I was talking about, the Hot Cinnamon Sunset one. That's their proprietary blend. The idea of a Hot Cinnamon Sunset tea is pretty common, but theirs is the best one in my opinion.
All right, cool.
So, and if you are reading along, dear listener, you would have guessed that we were probably going to do a tea-based drink since the entire book revolves around a tea shop in all essence. That is the local watering hole. Not a coffee shop in Portland, mind you, but a tea shop. So there is a lot of scrumptious tea consumed. I have also found myself upon rereading this, not highlighting because I don't like to write in my books. I can't do it. But writing down all of the various vegetables that Dorian prepares.
They started off with the best one. I want to point out the first dish that he made started with butternut squash as the main thing. And that's the best vegetable in the entire world. You can at me.
I actually prefer acorn squash to butternut squash.
How could you?
I just like squash. Like all forms of squash.
like the sport.
Or have you ever had squash blossoms, stuffed fried squash blossoms?
Oh.
It's a hard one to get a hold of. People don't often have those, but I mean that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Like I don't go into a place and normally excuse me, could I get the leaves from the stem the stem of the broccoli, please? People just don't keep that stuff on hand.
No, but in this case they should. I feel like cheese stuffed fried squash blossoms should be on everybody's menu.
That's fair.
Because it's delicious. But I digress. So before we jump into talking about the first 100 pages, the first 11 chapters for those who are listening on audio, we should do our footnote. So in keeping with what has somewhat become our operating procedures as of now, our first footnote is about G.G. Pandian. And Jessica and I are going to do this together. We're going to co-say this because some of the stuff that we were looking up, this lovely author's note and stuff online, dealt with where the book came from. And Jessica is far more familiar with this process than I am. So I'm going to let her take it away from that portion.
Oh, okay. Well, Gigi says in her author's note that this was her cancer book. So I guess she got diagnosed with an aggressive breast cancer, and sort of like the idea of alchemy's elixir of life kind of, would have been nice at the time for her, I suppose. And at the time as well, it was National Novel Writing Month, which is NaNoWriMo for short. And that's basically where, as a writer, you challenge yourself to write 50,000 words in 1 month of a completely new story. So it can't be something you've written before or like a second draft. It has to be from scratch. You can do a little bit of plotting. That's it. I've done it quite a few times. I've had some decent ideas come from it. Not so decent ones, but it's really, really fun to do. So that's how she started the first draft for this Accidental Alchemist book.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I was referring to, in my lead up, was NaNoWriMo?
NaNoWriMo?
NaNoWriMo.
That one.
Yeah.
NaNoWriMo.
I like
NaNoWriMo.
the way that you said it was like NaNoWriMo for short. And I was like, well, I mean, it's shorter, except for like the first time where you have to explain it.
NaNoWriMo.
In which case it is longer.
NaNoWriMo. And NaNoWriMo is something like I highly encourage like anybody who wants to be a writer to do. It's a great community because like there's a lot of blog sports, a lot of writers go on it and help you out too. So it's a great way to, if you're worried about getting into writing, it's like a great excuse challenge to get you really into it. So
yeah. So Gigi also out there, apparently she grew up, both of her parents were anthropologists. Mexico and the southern tip of India, respectively. So she describes her childhood as being basically dragged around the world on research trips, which is when she started writing. She also describes her writing style as a cross between Agatha Christie and Indiana Jones, which I could kind of see that, and kind of explains why I was drawn to this in this storyline in the first place.
You mean you like Agatha Christie? I never would have guessed.
Surprise, everybody. Surprise. I know, it is shocking. She currently lives in the San Francisco Bay Area with her husband, and she actually claims to have a gargoyle that watches over her vegetable garden in her backyard.
I like that.
Which was just kind of like one of those pieces that I was like, I mean, I guess that's cool, but like, was it really necessary? Like, to tell me that?
No, and like if you're in the San Francisco area, yeah, no, 100%.
Is it? Absolutely.
There's a strong gargoyle culture over there. There's actually there's a gargoyle on the theater, like these string of gargoyles in San Francisco above my favorite, like one of my favorite areas over there. They all have the face of Guillermo del Toro.
Oh, I know which one you're talking about.
They're so weird. Like they're not literally, but like they look exactly like him, and it messes me up every time I see him. It's also a very good sushi shop right by there. That's neither here nor there. I apologize.
Well, there are lots of actually good sushi shops. There's lots of good seafood in the Bay Area, and I don't tend to like most seafood, so that's high praise coming from me. But in any case, she also, talking off of Jessica's statement, this being her cancer book, she also discovered the need during those treatments for a healthy lifestyle, which is why Zoe Faust is described as a vegan, specifically kind of playing up those virtues of that kind of healthy living and very nature-based world. Now, granted, I mean, Stephen, you were for a while, you were vegan.
For years.
I don't know that I am capable of going without cheese and egg. Like, I'm very much in the Dorian camp where I'm like, why would you do this? Why won't you eat eggs? Why would you take away cheese? I don't understand.
Yeah. No, one of the most common like critiques that I saw online when I was going around and looking for things for this online, which is also very much a pain in and of itself. Google, get your act together. I don't mean the Paulo Coelho book. Stop it. But anyway, but no, like one of the biggest things is that people end up talking about the fact that the character's vegan and this being like a preachy kind of thing. I don't know why that's a thing. Imagine if she never used the word vegan and she just said that she only ate like plant things.
Yeah.
Like, if she's like, oh, I only eat vegetables, no one would have ever had any kind of problem with this whatsoever. But it's just such a constant issue. As soon as anyone says vegan, everyone gets all up in arms about it.
I don't think it comes across as being vegan, though. I mean, preachy. I mean, she's a vegan.
Yeah,
she doesn't ever seem preachy about it. But.
The only part that I didn't like about it was when she went out to get the groceries and Dorian had been like, "Hey, maybe some bacon though," and then she was like, "Nope." I know that she's keeping up appearances because she doesn't want anyone to know that there's another thing there. But like, go ahead and just like go to a different store than usual. You go to like a dollar store or whatever, some off the beaten path place. Order it from Amazon or whatever. Don't say no for Dorian.
That's fair. And see, and I think for me it doesn't sound preachy because the discussion around food is very integral to the storyline. Mm-hmm. Because Dorian is a classically trained French chef, like, which is funny because you're talking about a living gargoyle, but so like it would be important. He would constantly want to talk about food, and being a French chef, he would constantly complain about her lack of cheese and eggs and
it's true
pork products. Like that would just be not okay. And I think that, you know, the author does a good job of explaining why she went vegan because of her sensitivity to plants and the things that she, you know, because she's an alchemist, like not necessarily like, oh, everybody has to, but because I'm built this certain way, I need to be. Mm-hmm. So, but in any case, I think that's a good spot to jump into the book. So what were your first impressions?
I like it.
Okay.
I was like, someone else go first.
It's very easy and simple read. I really like it, and it's very interesting. But I feel like I need more to really judge it out because we just got the 100 pages, and I just need a little bit more.
Yeah, I am questioning whether we shouldn't have just done like bit the bullet and done like 175 pages and 175 pages and just gone through the whole thing in two. But the look on Stephen's face is that he's trying to get through this.
I didn't realize that we weren't halfway through the book until you said that right now. I thought this was one half. When you
Nope, it's only a third.
Well, there we go.
And it's a smaller third.
Mm-hmm. You tell us your opinions of it the second time that you are going through it.
So the second time going through, what I'm picking up on a lot are some of the foreshadowings that come later in different books, because this is a 4-part series. Mm-hmm. And each book does stand alone to a certain extent, but there's definitely some overarching storylines, very much like Scythe was. So I'm catching a lot more of the foreshadowing and the nods than I did the first time through. Mm-hmm. On some of those long-term ones. I'm still seeing the foreshadowing from within this book that I caught the first time, but the longer-term ones I hadn't quite caught. And I'm coming back and, oh, so this is the first time we saw that.
Okay.
But I definitely enjoy this book, one, because I'm obsessed with food, and so I love a book that, you know, spends half of its time talking about what they're eating, because I'm like, yes, this is what I'm here for. This is what I want. Plus, I love a good murder mystery. So, like, I get murder mystery and food, and I'm a happy camper. Like, there's really... you can't make me unhappy about this book. But clearly something doesn't sit right with you, Stephen. So let's hear it out.
So
you're not going to offend me, I promise.
No. So for this one, I really liked the beginning of it, and I like where we're at now. But there was a part in the middle where... it got to be like a very typical, like, this is like, it got to be all the typical things of the books that my mom read when I was a kid that I would borrow to read more books. Because I read any book that came into our house, I read it. Like literally anything, unless it was some sports biography my dad picked up. I don't care about that. But like so much of it, even like the introduction of the detective, so much of that stuff, I'm just like, Yeah. Like, and I'm a person who has like read and enjoyed Mercy Thompson books, so many other things that would be like typically like you would say it's just because I'm not in the target demographic for it or something, and been like and enjoyed it fully. Like I have no issues with that kind of thing. It's just something about the way that it's being presented that I haven't put my finger on yet that is not striking me perfectly.
Okay.
That being said, I like the setup of this. When if you just said like the bullet point things for it, I'd be like, this sounds fantastic. This is wonderful. This has so many different elements that all sound great. But
you just don't currently like the way it's put together.
Yeah.
I feel like what it is, now that I think on it, I feel like some of the characters are slightly too perfect versions of that character or something. And that's why I said I wish I've read more, because I feel like my slight issue with it is these characters don't seem very realistic at all. Like, not necessarily because they're alchemists, just more not like that. But like even the side characters seem too good to be true a little bit. Or like, I don't know. It's like a little too picture perfect or kind of sort of Hallmarky movie-ish character base. Oh my gosh.
It feels.
Go ahead.
What I was gonna say, it does feel like a little bit like an episode of Heart of Dixie,
which I just started watching. So yes,
I completely agree to a certain extent. I think particularly as we get towards the end of this book, and if you were to choose to continue on into the other books, those perceptions would change.
I'm sure that they get to open up. Everything is building in the beginning.
I would almost maybe suggest that you are seeing them from the way that a newcomer to a society would see the storefront of any or interactions. You know, you start with seeing people as they choose to present themselves, and you don't necessarily get who they are just yet.
Oh yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Like, I really wish I could wait a little further before I judge just the character aspect of it, because they are unique, and I like them enough to the point that I do want to see where they're going and what I'm not quite seeing about them. So, but it's just, I feel like you get actually more, what it is within the first 100 pages, you get introduced to so many different quirky characters. Like, each single one already has a set quirk. Like, there's a tea shop owner, and not only is she a tea shop owner, but her chai is also vegan, which is crazy. But like, and then the detective is even super unique, and I get slightly his background tinting is, I'm pretty sure he has some sort of herbology background with his grandparents or something that he mentioned. But anyway, it's
or apothecaries in China. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and the kid does too.
The kid, yeah. The kid, and then also like the 2 paragraphs you get for the goth locksmith guy.
Yeah.
But you only get 2 paragraphs of him. I was like, I wanted to have a full conversation with that goth locksmith.
There's definitely a lot. And again, it's like if you're watching like an episode of CSI or anything like that, in the beginning, like there'll just be a part where for some reason the camera just kind of lingers on like some like red object in the corner, and you're like, oh, it's gonna be important later. Like you do these things to point things out to people, and depending on the type of like murder mystery novel or anything like that, that is one of the tried and true parts of a novel. Sometimes they'll do it for subversion because you're like, oh no, it's got to be that person. I'm curious to see how it nets out.
Okay, fair. So starting with our 2 main characters, Zoe Faust and Dorian Houdin. What are your thoughts on them? How do you like them as characters? What are you hoping to see?
I like Dorian. I have a favorite moment with Dorian already.
Okay. What's your favorite?
So when she's talking to I forget exactly what the situation is at the moment. But she's pulled away for a second, and then she comes back in, and Dorian has the phone from the little kid. He's like, he was trying to take a picture of me.
I can't use the phone. My fingers are stoned.
I can't make it work.
Yeah. And when the kid's like, okay, fine, I'll delete it. He's like, no, you can do it while I'm holding the phone here. Like, That's a very good scene.
That is an excellent scene. That is very prime. And Dorian is by far a fantastic character. How do you feel about Zoe?
You take this one, Jess.
I need more from her or something. I don't know. There's so many mysteries about her past. She's so kind of cryptic. Like I said, it's just the first 100 pages. I was like,
Okay.
Stop being so cryptic. I get you've had a bad.
Yes, my bad. Clearly, I needed to just be like, okay, we're just gonna do it in 2. You just have to do heavy reading.
I know. No, I like her. I think she's fascinating. I like that she's a vegan. It makes sense that she's a vegan. I like that she travels around in an RV because that's probably what I would do if I was not quite immortal. I do like her argument that she's not immortal. Be like, I can die. I can get disease. I just don't age.
I can.
except for her follicles.
Yeah, her hair follicles.
Yeah.
Which I mean, there has to be, I guess, a cost to everything. But I don't.
That's
Is that a bad cost though?
Because that's a great cost. That's a plus side for this one.
I know, right? Because like you have a great base for doing any color job that you ever want. Like you could do the awesome pastel colors if you want. Like you don't have to over bleach your hair. It's just set. Just
I was thinking more like you have like eternal career looking awesome. I mean that's what Anderson Cooper's entire career is based off of. Yeah. You trust Anderson Cooper because like, oh, he's got white hair. I trust him.
Yeah, he's clearly he's educated and wise because he's got hair. Yeah,
that news gnome with the white hair is pretty cool. He's a small man.
How do you guys feel about Zoe's ability to smell scents?
Oh yeah, that's a given.
Her ability to detect poison.
Yeah. Every person who's in any kind of like murder mystery or anything like that, they always have the one thing. And that one's hers.
That one's hers. Do you feel like a good one thing, or is it like a super over the top one thing? Is it too cliche? Is it too unexplainable?
I think because she's also an alchemist, and an alchemist that's herbology, like the herbal side of it, then it makes sense for her character to be able to do it. What I think quite didn't make sense was she knows that it's weird that she can smell poison, yet it's like the first thing she says after living for 300 years when she's a detective, which I'm like.
So what you're really saying is she is not particularly, what's the word? Disciplined. She's not well disciplined.
Yeah, like she just,
years.
Which I get, it's probably foreshadowing for a future like past story that's going to happen, but she just once an authority figure is around her, it's like her brain shuts off. That 300 years of education and living and wisdom just gone in a minute. Like, how'd you know it's poison? I smelled it. Like one does. What did it smell like? I don't know.
In that moment, I was kind of thinking of Psych, where like early on in the series, he's trying to kind of figure out a reason for explanations for stuff. Yeah, that's how it felt.
Yeah.
No, that is absolutely true. How does everybody feel about Brixton?
The kid?
That's the kid, right?
Yeah. Brixton's the kid.
His name is perfect for what his age would be and the person who would have named him and the locale they would have named him.
Yeah.
So by that one, perfect.
How do you feel about him questioning alchemy?
I don't know, it's weird.
Turning lead into gold, and can she get the elixir of life?
I don't know if we're supposed to be going with super precocious super precocious kid who did way too much Google searching. But there's also a lot of other things here. Like this kid, he's corruptible. If some other person who has these powers pops up, everything's out the window. Everyone's going to know about this gargoyle. He will sell that gargoyle in an instant for a taste of alchemic powers.
I don't know. I feel like he might be loyal. Maybe. I don't know. I hope so.
I think he's story important for later, personally.
Probably. Maybe he can be a little alchemy apprentice. Oh god, it'd be horrible treating him though. Like he would not be a good learner.
I mean, he might need a new parent soon, judging by the rate at which people around her keep just dying. So his mom just came by. So
I know. She just dropped off her vegan cookie.
Mm-hmm.
How do you guys feel? So, other than our main characters, and I will give this away, Brixton becomes a main character.
Yay.
Yeah.
How do you feel? Who's your favorite side character? So
the detective.
Really?
Max?
I like
It's
him.
not Dorian?
Well, I consider
Dorian's the main character, yeah.
Okay. I'll take it.
You've got Blue, the tea shop owner.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, do we?
That's fair. Fair. But in this 100 pages, you had Blue, the tea shop owner.
Wait, we weren't supposed to read through chapter 11, or were we just reading up to chapter 11?
You read through chapter 11.
Yeah. She died at the end of chapter 11.
Yes. So for this first 100 pages, you had Blue. She was alive for this 100 pages.
Well, for 99 pages.
99 pages.
99 pages, but no, sorry. I knew it.
But Blue ain't one.
You have Olivia. You have Sam. You have Ivan, who gets a very brief introduction.
Ivan is
Olivia's friend who doesn't like retirement.
Gotcha.
Oh, is that weird lady in the tea shop?
Olivia's the weird lady in the tea shop, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I read her like a Karen. Like, I don't know.
I don't think you're wrong. Yeah.
Okay, good.
You have the goth hipster locksmith.
I like him.
So Jessica's favorite is Detective
And
Matt,
the goth hipster locksmith.
and the goth hipster locksmith. Stephen, I know you love the goth hipster locksmith. Do you have any other favorite side characters so far? Or ones you think you might end up liking in the future once you know more?
No, not so much. If I had to stretch it past Dorian, I would say like Dorian in a mirror. Like I really like Dorian. Like
Stephen is on Team Dorian. I support this. That's excellent.
But and for you?
Yeah.
I can't say because it would give away things.
Got you.
Because I know too much. Because I've read 3 of the 4 books already. So I have a lot more to go off of on these characters. I definitely have ones that are my favorites, but I am with you. Dorian is fantastic. And Max is great. But our last page, the cliffhanger to repay Jessica on, is Zoe coming upon Blue's body. I'm going to tell you there's twists. There's a couple of them. Do you guys want to take any guesses?
Well, apparently, yeah, that's what I'm going to say from how you've talked about it. That seems like the clear one. The only thing I would say is we should have seen this one coming. There's a whole song about if you were blue, you would die.
Do you have any guesses who the murderer is?
Karen. No. The guy who doesn't like retirement. He doesn't like retirement to the point he just decides to start killing people.
Ivan.
I'm going to go ahead and say it's someone who's from elsewhere. It's a distinct possibility that it's someone more related to Dorian's papa.
Okay. So you think somebody from Dorian's past? Nobody's guessing it's anybody from Zoe's past? I mean, as Jessica pointed out, we don't know much about her past yet.
No, it's a distinct possibility. That's how you flesh out a world. But I have nothing to put into that one yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything you hope to see in the next 100 pages?
Alchemy.
Okay.
Herbology. I love herbology.
Say you're not feeling satisfied with her descriptions about what she puts in her smoothies and why?
No. I love her making potions.
Hey, those could be potions. You consume potions all the time to get things to happen.
I don't know how she puts her magic in it, because I think she describes like her antibiotics, like whatever she does on Brixton. Like she describes what's in it, but she didn't describe what makes it heal so much better than just those 2 ingredients. Like,
I mean, sometimes it's just a combination of those things from reading like anything from like spell books or anything. Because I was really curious as a teenager. There are all these people who were really on for like witch things. I was like, well, what's supposed to really like make this happen? A lot of times it's just the things themselves.
Yeah, it's the things themselves, or like what time that you're doing it, under what moon phase usually. But like that's what like alchemy generally calls for a cost usually, or something.
Equivalent exchange.
What I'm not quite getting with her small. Like I want to see her do alchemy. Like really, like I want to see her make it. Like,
no, that's fair. Like I have unrealistic expectations for alchemy. Having
thank
been
you.
a kid who grew up watching Full Metal Alchemist.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
See, I think this book, I think as you get into it, will do a really good job of showing you fact from fiction in terms of alchemy, like getting back to what alchemy was supposed to be in its most true and basic form when it was actually a science of that age. So I will be interested to see how you feel about the she does perform alchemy. So yes, that does occur. I think it occurs in the next 100 pages.
We shall see. Check back in part 2.
Check back in part 2. Maybe part 3. And then just go read all the other books on your own. Highly recommend. I know, Stephen, you said you didn't know how you felt about the audiobook itself. I happen to really like the reading of the audiobook, but
I think a little bit of that vibe was just me not liking the book. Because I like the audiobook just fine. I don't have any issues with that one whatsoever. And believe me, I've listened to some really bad audiobooks before. There's a really bad sci-fi one. It was a William Gibson book. And the guy, every single line was like, and then he ran into the house. Like, oh. It was like a bad radio DJ.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's a lot to take in. So any final thoughts? I know this is unfortunately probably going to be a relatively short episode for us, everybody. Sorry about that.
Oh, no, we're okay. We're on just about 40 minutes right now.
Oh, cool. So any final thoughts before we get ready to sign off? I do have a feeling we're going to have a lot more to talk about next week.
Well, I'm curious here. I have one question for you guys. What dish did you consider making while reading this book for yourself, like in the next couple days? Because I definitely am like, you know what? I should make pasta. Yeah. And I thought about some very specific kinds of pasta that I'm going to make, so on and so forth.
I think for me, it was, which one was it? Probably that butternut squash or the acorn squash.
Oh, I didn't even know if it doesn't necessarily have to be something from this. Like you're just like it spurred you to want to cook.
I feel like
go ahead.
Ratatouille.
Okay.
Probably. Because it's just so vegetable heavy, and ratatouille is just such a beautiful vegetable dish. And I've always wanted to make it like how it looks in the movie Ratatouille too. So
it's a fun one to make, honestly. Yeah. It really is.
Yeah.
Like putting the things in is like kind of meditative.
Yeah. I don't know, it looks so fun. But I've had it like the chunky way before, like how it originally is, or it's just like a bunch of glob of vegetables cut and chopped and roasted together. That is also very good too. Vegetables. I love vegetables.
No, this has led me to, and I've done it before, where I end up just searching like weird vegetables you've never heard about. Like, just finding vegetables and then like trying them out. The one I came across today was ramps, RAMPS, which
sounds so familiar.
They grow primarily in the northern Midwest. I had heard the word before, but I hadn't ever tried them. And they're supposed to have kind of a cross between an onion and garlic flavor.
This is the perfect vegetable.
What?
Right?
Yeah. This is everything that was needed for anyone.
So, and basically you're just supposed to like leave them whole, just cut off the very tip of the root because they look kind of like green onions almost, only a little more bulbous at the bottom. But you just cut off the very bottom and then you either like saute them or grill them, maybe with a little bit of a citrus juice or an olive oil.
I wonder if I've just purchased these accidentally when they were in season or something. Because I buy green onions, leeks, or anything that's even akin to those things all the time.
Yeah. But then you're just supposed to kind of eat them whole, like the bulb, the leaves, the whole kit and caboodle.
I do that to green onions.
Yep.
Naima judged me this weekend.
Yeah. So that's what this book has spurred me to do, is just basically look up vegetables I've never, like the first time I read this book, I ended up being introduced to kohlrabi. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that.
No.
I guess the best way to describe it, it's a root version of cabbage to me almost. Like it's green and it's dead. It is not an attractive looking vegetable. And you have to peel 2 layers of it.
Because
then
it's under the dirt?
It's got, so the outer skin is kind of like a potato skin, except it's much harder and you can't cook it. And then it's got a thin veneer underneath that can sometimes give you gas and things. So you just peel both of those. And I just do it with a vegetable peeler and I just go twice over everything. But then you get to the center of the root and you can dice it and throw it in salad, or you can roast it, which is the way I usually prefer it. I've also made chips with it. You can make vegetable chips with it. So it's very good. It's not quite, it operates like a potato or a yam, like it should have a lot of starch, but it has far less starch than most of those vegetables do.
Okay.
It is not an attractive looking vegetable at all, but it is very tasty once you actually get into it. But yeah.
Look out for ramps and kohlrabi out there, guys.
Yeah. And other obscure vegetables. Actually, if you come across other obscure vegetables, please tweet at us.
And honestly, just buy them. Just buy them.
Just buy them.
Yeah, because we need to have a more diverse group of vegetables out there. We can't just survive on carrots, onions, potatoes, so on and so forth. Like we need to diversify. Support them.
We really need to. Yeah, no. So that's what I've been looking at cooking.
Okay. Well, thank you for suggesting this one. I'm curious to see how this one nets out. It's our first murder mystery so far.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued to see how you guys feel.
I guess the site did have murder mystery parts. Yeah. As soon as I said it, I was like, you know what? Never mind. I take it back.
Yeah, and Time Machine didn't have murder mystery, but it had theft mystery.
It
I mean, it certainly had. It left us with plenty of questions.
Plenty of questions.
Plenty of questions and maybe a drinking problem. But if you have any thoughts, please, tweet at us, comment, let us know what you're thinking and how you're feeling about the first 100 pages of Accidental Alchemist. And if you have any recipes you want to share, we are definitely foodies, so we are all in on that. Also, please remember to like, rate, subscribe to this on whatever your podcatcher is so that we can find more people. Jess, where can people reach out directly to you at?
You can find me directly on Twitter as JM Bailey Writes. Also, don't forget to check out, I do a little Instagram just for this podcast, and that's Love of Pages on Instagram.
Where can people find you on TikTok?
On TikTok, I think I'm still JM Bailey Writes. So you can find me on TikTok as JM Bailey Writes, and that's where I do some of the videos of the drinks that we're doing. So it's just a great editing platform.
And Stephen, where can people find you at?
You can find me across all social media as either Peppermint Gentleman or Peppermint Gent for short. Today, I actually just launched a new art Twitter. It's exclusively art, so it's not me just retweeting things or anything like that. It's Peppermint Gent, but minus the vowels. Join me.
That's great. And you can find me and the rest of Geek Elite Media and all of us at Geek Elite Media on our Facebook page /Geek Elite Media. Archived episodes of this podcast and other podcasts can be found at geekelitemedia.com. But until next time, remember to keep turning those pages and always remember to
geek out. One day.